I knew the answer. I just had to have someone else saying, hey, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
You need to prioritize yourself again.
Your goal versus the next person's goal might not be quite the same.
Not putting the right energy in the right places or dividing it and so on.
Like I did. I had excess masculine energy. Poor diet, too much physical activity led to basically exhaustion.
I was like, finally someone that understands me, that speaks my language. Välkomna till ännu ett avsnitt av Coffee and Confidence podcast. Idag så har jag en väldigt speciell gäst som jag bjudit in. En gäst som jag har fått utvecklas med under de senaste åren. Mark Zawadski, han är en high performance coach inom livsstil och hjälper både kvinnor och män att finna balans i sin kropp. Och nu så sitter han här med mig. Very welcome.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here.
Thank you for joining.
Pleasure.
How are you today?
Very good. Very good. Nice to be here joining you and seeing each other in a different environment.
It for sure is. So this is actually not the first time you've been mentioned in our podcast. In an earlier episode, I was mentioning you that I came to you 1.5 years ago and said that I want to become J-Lo. I'm ready. And then you said, no, that's not going to happen right now because my stress levels were too high and I had an imbalance in my hip as well. And I don't want to work out for 3 hours a day. That's not optimal in my lifestyle at the moment.
Well, that's a great choice to make. I mean, that's absolutely the point, isn't it? I mean, there's nothing wrong with the goal of having a body like J-Lo. She's done amazing things with her physical body.
Yeah.
But her goal versus your goal versus the next person's goal might not be quite the same. So how do we focus your energy into what's really mattering and also why the body of J-Lo?
Yeah.
What is it about that's a goal for so many people?
Yeah. Maybe it's more about her energy.
Well, you better have good energy if you're going to train 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
She's dedicated.
She certainly is.
And it's a part of her lifestyle as well.
Absolutely.
I often talk in coaching with women comparing themselves, having the comparison. We're talking about, well, you cannot compare yourself with a person that has that kind of lifestyle because they have someone that cooks their food, works out with them, and probably taking care of the kids during the night as well.
Does all of the things that we all, us mere mortals, have to do day to day that ensures that we can't dedicate that amount of time, whether it's an elite professional, whether it's a movie star, whether it's a pop star, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Our lives are different and we need to structure our goals accordingly. If we're going to be in balance, we could also try and fit in 3 hours of training, and I see people that do that.
Yeah.
Doesn't tend to lead to that great result if you've also got a day job, if you've got kids to look after, if you've got hours of administration to do, that there's not enough energy and time to do all of that. So it's very important that we're focusing on what is really meaningful for us.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself? What led you to sitting here today and working with the things you do?
Yeah. Well, I was, even from a very small boy, I was highly motivated and about sport and loved my sport. The challenge was I grew up on a very, very tiny island in the middle of the North Sea in Scotland.
Wow.
Yeah. A little group of islands called the Orkney Islands. I grew up on one of the smaller ones of those.
How many people were living there?
At the time, around 350.
Oh, wow.
Island. Yeah.
Okay.
And now it's actually even less. But my aspirations for professional sport probably weren't exactly aligned with that environment. So that sort of never really took off. But even into my adulthood, after I went to university, I was still trying to become a professional footballer. But I was trying to do it against the lifestyle that I had. I had a physical day job, so I would get to games and training sessions and be physically exhausted. Exactly what we're talking about there. I can't train like Ronaldo if I'm chopping trees down for 6 hours during the day. It's just not possible to have any energy left in reserve. So basically, I believe I had the talent and the ability to become a professional, but the other aspects, mental, emotional, self-worth, self-belief, physical development, diet and lifestyle, all of those things were far from optimal, and those held me back. And my inconsistency as a player was probably a bit of a hallmark of when I was playing. I could be amazing on a given day, and I could be like I'd never played the game before. It was such a inconsistent process because of all of the extra vagaries of my life. Didn't know what my work week would look like. Didn't know how to look after my food. Didn't know how to look after my sleep. All of those things were energy consuming, and meaning that I wasn't at my peak when I got to game day. So basically, after I decided I'd had enough of that, I went into coaching footballers, went to an elite professional Premier League club as a goalkeeping coach, which was my position, and saw again the deficiencies. I left after a year because I saw the deficiencies in physical development, understanding, training periodization, and saw the players being given coaching that was actually stopping their dreams rather than helping them. They were trying to succeed despite their coaching, despite their support staff, support system, not because of it. And that, to me, when I look back at my own life and the what I wouldn't have given to have those opportunities, but then to see the impact of suboptimal coaching on that child or youngster's body or performance was very meaningful for me as part of what I'd experienced in my journey. And that led me to search for ways to optimize that, to be the best coach that I could be, so that when a young aspiring or current professional, or any person really who's got a goal and a dream and is willing to put in the work and the effort and the time and the energy, how can I help that person to the best of my ability? And if they need extra support, who can I find to help them with that? Yeah. And that's basically what leads me here through different vague paths of different choices. So that's in a nutshell is basically why I'm here.
Nice. Yeah, we always end up in these deep conversations.
Absolutely, it's part of this. It's the fun of connecting with you. It always goes into the deeper, more fun realms.
We do, and I often find it not that common to meet people that you can open up conversations that deep with in life. It's not very common. No, I think that's what makes it so valuable when you do find those people that you really connect with them, because it isn't everybody that you can connect with. It's not everybody you can communicate with at the same level. Yeah. And I agree, it's very valuable. Very valuable. So what type of imbalances do you meet in your clients, both female and males? Well,
there's so many symptomatic, superficial issues, whether it be digestive issues, sleep pattern disorders, inability to recover from exercise or injury. We see a lot of professional athletes who are basically coming in with reduced performance or injury. But the overriding, almost like causation, not the symptom, which is the injury or the illness or the dysfunction or the pain, but the actual causation underneath that is an imbalance of masculine, feminine energy, excessive masculine energy. That's, in a nutshell, what I take it back to time and time again.
And that is actually something we often end up talking about.
Absolutely.
And it was so liberating for me to find someone that I could finally talk about these things about, because I myself have been exploring the balance between the masculine and feminine for mostly 2 last decades, finding myself in my journey and then starting to help other women to get back in balance between the feminine and the masculine. And when you started talking about this with me, I was like, finally, someone that understands me, that speaks my language of energies. And it was so liberating to have someone to talk this about. And I often see that a lot of women, they are stuck in the wounded masculine energy because we need a balance of both. And I cherish my divine masculine energy because that energy has been making me to places, right? Sitting
Exactly.
here, creating
Yes,
this podcast.
Exactly. This doesn't happen without some form of masculine energy.
Right. And that is so interesting. But when that masculine energy is wounded, it's going to destroy you and maybe lead to burnout or overachievement and such things. And I often look at my own life. I was pouring love and energy in my last relationship for 6 years to someone that didn't want to receive it, didn't want to make a change in his life. And I just woke up one day and thought about like, okay, what if I changed the energy? And I was giving and started to give myself all that love and energy to myself. What happens then? That was also the day that I left him. I decided to do that and moved abroad. And it was so fun to see the change in myself. Like, okay, now I'm going to start working with that wounded masculine energy and see what I can create with that. And over the past years, just recently, I feel like I found balance, because you can say that when I came to you as well, it was still wounded because I was overworked, overachieved.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with you. I think that was the challenge that we faced in the early stages of our journey together.
Yeah.
Was you were ready for change, but you were still very much in that masculine or that wounded masculine energy where it's all about trying to fix everything, too much creation, too much fire.
Yeah. Always.
But that's without the sun in the sky, the fire in the sky, life cannot exist. So it's a very, very important thing. It's not a negative. And I think that's where some of the sad things that I see, it's almost seen like just an intrinsically a negative thing. And it's like, that's not, it can't be. If it's a natural archetype, it can't be that negative. It must be part of the greater whole. Now, if it becomes out of balance, that's when it becomes an issue. Yeah. And that's where it starts to burn people up. And you get your symptoms of excess masculine energy, your adrenal fatigue, your digestive issues, your hormonal imbalances, your sleep imbalances, your inability to recover from exercise, inability to perform. Like I did. I had excess masculine energy. Poor diet, too much physical activity led to basically exhaustion.
Yeah.
And that, whether it's an athlete, whether it's a business owner, whether it's a parent, it's relevant for everybody at different levels.
Yeah.
We've obviously been through your journey on this together for over 2 years now. So and it's wonderful to see that firstly the awareness that you had about it, and then the protocols that you've put in place and the changes you made in your life to create that more balanced masculine feminine energy.
Yeah.
The doing versus the nurturing. Without that, that's an equation that becomes unbalanced, and eventually that doesn't add up anymore. And it's the physical body that manifests that equation that's out of balance. What
I love about working with women is that we're often more intuitive. And we just know. I knew that I was working too much, working too many hours a day, not putting the right energy in the right places or dividing it and so on. It was so interesting I knew the answer. I just had to have someone else saying, hey, you need to slow down.
Yeah.
You need to prioritize yourself again. And you can work how many hours a day with your mental health, but if you're not taking care of your body as well, it's not going to make a difference because it's so connected.
Absolutely. You cannot separate the body. You know, the body is not something to put your head on top of.
No.
Our blood is obviously nourishing our brain. So if there's issues with our hormonal system, that's rushing through our bloodstream to tell our body what's going on. That's going to affect the brain.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at mental health, we have to look at the physical body. We have to look at a holistic basis in order to be able to get truly effective results. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. That's really, really telling, and really it's lovely. It's lovely to see, and that's one of the things I love working with women about. Is they are more intuitive. They are ready when I open that door to give some more information or more understanding of what those feelings actually mean. You feel them, but you don't necessarily, or one doesn't necessarily have the language to translate it. But when you give that feeling a language or a voice, then you can translate it into understanding what's the cause of that. And then, especially with women, they can go into working on or changing what they're doing in that aspect to create a more balanced approach, to be more nurturing. And women are more open to it. Women, most of my challenging clients who are non-coachable are men. Most of them are.
Wow.
So the ones I tend to have more challenges with are men. Not always. Not always. I've had some female clients that I didn't have the skills to help them, or they weren't ready to heal. But in the main, women do have that instinctual awareness and desire to nurture. It's part of the female archetype.
It is.
And if you give that value, if you give that a language, a way of being expressed, a way of being understood, then in my experience with working with many, many women, that's far easier for a woman to cope. Also, it's seen as more acceptable, I think, as well. For men, it's like, yeah,
I don't need help.
I'm a man. I don't need female energy. What's that all about?
Yeah.
You know, that's like, I'm very careful about mentioning female energy with certain male clients, because otherwise they'll be out the door in a shot.
Yeah.
But it's really, really important, and I see it time and time again with men, just as I do with women. Yeah. So, as I say, both energies are within all of us. It's not a man versus a woman thing. This is within all of us.
Yeah, it's not something connected to the gender that
No,
you
not
prefer
at all.
to be pronounced by.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's within us, whether we're whatever gender we are, and that's important. That takes a bit of the stigma away from it, and it takes away that sort of versus agenda as well, which can become a bit overbearing, I find, sometimes for people.
So how do you help both the women and men finding balance and guiding them to find balance in their bodies?
That depends quite a lot on the individual.
Yeah.
What is the language? What is the value that they put to this? What is the goal? I think if you take it back to a goal creation, which is more of a masculine archetype, but it gives people something that's a bit easier to understand. So if it's J-Lo, what's her goal? If it's you, what's your goal? If it's me, what's my goal? And then saying, okay, if we want to achieve that, what are the protocols we can put in place based on what I see with that person to help them achieve it? And it may be for one person drinking more water. For the next person, it may be changing the balance of their diet to foods that are less inflammatory, foods that are less sort of instant gratification, to more nurturing, nourishing foods. For another person, it might be sleep patterns. For another person, it may be focusing on what is the goal. It completely depends upon the individual. So it's difficult to say what one thing works, but starting off with a goal it creates almost like a North Star to follow, to align ourselves with. And we talked about that very much when we started, was, okay, we're doing this behavior, but does that choice, or does that behavior on a daily basis take us towards or away from that goal? On that, how does it affect that journey? And that, it can be challenging, and it is challenging for people, but it gives one a lot more of a sort of ability to look at those choices without judgment, without shame, and just make it a bit less emotional and a bit more sort of just easy to, more palatable. It doesn't have the emotional charge to it. It's okay, if I make the choice to do this, that's going to take me actually away from what I believe I want to achieve. If I make this choice, it's going to take me towards. There's no shame in that. There's no guilt in that. There's no blame in that. It's very functional.
Yeah, and I remember when I met you, I was working like 12 hours a day, just hustling.
Yeah.
I think it was the third year of my company, and I wanted to build things, and I was by myself. I had our content creator as well, but I needed to be the one driving things forward. Equals being a lot in the masculine energy. And my whole last year was all about finding the balance. I told myself, when I invested my time and energy working with you, I was also starting to not work during evenings and weekends, to spend more time with my family and do more things that was nurturing me. For example, reading a book or going workout or do something, meet friends that gave me energy and recharging, not working and putting all my energy in that.
Yes.
And it was such a huge shift for me, because I was brought up as well, like, if you want to have something, you have to work hard for it. That typical masculine hustle culture.
Yeah.
And I agree, you need to work hard for things you want, but there's also a part in life where you can just sit and wait for things, or being patient and believe that things are coming and changing. And that intuitive belief made me feel a lot less stressed. And I was feeling that I could finally take a step back and just believe that things were going to work out the way I wanted it to be.
Yeah. That's the irony of it. When you do balance that out, things do happen more naturally, more organically. If we're too busy fighting and pushing, we're not going to enjoy the journey of life.
No.
And we're going to miss all of the fun staging posts and fun parts on that quest for that goal. That in itself, if you're not enjoying the journey, you're not enjoying nurturing that and being present with that. If you're just focusing on that goal, then you miss all the fun parts on the way.
Yeah.
All the developmental stages. But the other thing, even if we look at how stress affects the brain. Stress hormone secretion decreases the flow of blood to the prefrontal cortex, which is the creative center of the brain. It takes it all and pushes it into the deeper, more reflexive parts of the brain, which are all about safety and survival. They're the reptilian responses. You can't be creative and develop something effectively if you're in a stress state. It's just not possible. The brain is literally having the blood squeezed out of the part you need to be creative and developing. So that, what I've just said there is a very useful coaching tool to use for people who are very masculine in their success paradigm. Okay, if you choose to drink huge amounts of stimulant, eat lots of sugar, don't sleep, don't hydrate, don't move your body, you're literally going to make yourself into a less effective being to achieve what you want. And that's quite ironic. And that's what I mean about the imbalance of masculine and feminine energy. All of those things I was talking about there, those are all masculine impacts. If we're out of balance, then we don't create what we want to create, because you need the nurturing and the development. That happens in nature.
Yeah.
That's the nature of the seasons. During the winter, the roots of the tree are growing. During the summer, it's the canopy and the branches that are growing. Without the roots growing effectively, the tree will fall over and die. So you need that almost like a seasonality. That's just another way of expressing masculine and feminine energy. The cooling winter is the female. The warm, expressive part is the summer.
Yeah.
So masculine and feminine energy must be natural if that works in nature. And that's what you see. If you get a summer or if you get a year that's too dry, the trees don't look well. They start to shed their leaves. That's them under stress. Just the same way as the physical human body is affected, the physical tree is affected too by the excess yang energy, too hot, too dry. You see it quite often, especially in the cities where the water doesn't tend to settle in the soil so well. It tends to run off. So those trees get affected more quickly and more easily. And so it's very easy to see that there.
Beautiful. And it's also very interesting when you connect everything, talking about being in the masculine energy. If you're too much in your toxic masculine energy, it equals you not feeling safe. And I just realized in myself a couple of weeks ago, like I've been feeling safe the past years with working with my trauma, having a partner that supports me, whatever what, making me feel safe, building a home that felt safe, that I wasn't doing when I was growing up, and then had my abusive relationship. And that's so interesting. When I started to feel safe, it was also more easy to trust the masculine energy, the divine one, not the toxic one.
Because then it's in balance. It's not having to act out.
Right. When we start to feel safe, it's more natural to be in that, and also to embrace the feminine energy.
Precisely.
Like, the beautiful stuff as just aligning with yourself, trusting, being more intuitive, being more intact with your body, and just feeling that you can be here and right now. Don't have to plan everything.
Exactly.
Like the project manager.
Yes, exactly.
And it's also beautiful. I see it often in my coaching clients, a lot of moms being too much in their masculine energy, because it's the natural, the archetype of a mother is always, or not always, but it's also a masculine energy, making things, prioritizing everyone.
Yes.
Instead of yourself.
Precisely. I think that is a very relevant thing that I see time and time again with mothers.
Yeah.
They are so busy prioritizing everybody else, and that is part of the mother archetype. The mother archetype does have to sacrifice her own body, her own energy, to nurture the embryo, the fetus, and the child. That is part of the mother archetype. But when that becomes out of balance, when that becomes excessive, then you find mothers who are not spending time to devote to themselves. The horrible irony of that is when one doesn't nurture oneself, there is less energy and love to give to others. We all know it when we're tired and we're stressed. I had an example of that today. Tired, stressed, and being a bit too yang and a bit too fire, you don't have the time and the energy and the patience for the ones that you love and you want to cherish and nurture and are part of your dream team. So again, there's that wonderful irony being brought into focus that, okay, I'm trying to do all these things, but actually I'm harming the very thing that I'm trying to create and nurture. Yeah. And that is so relevant with children. So talking about the mother archetype, I've worked with quite a lot of mothers rehabilitating injury or pain or reduced energy levels or many other symptoms. And the symptom is not the thing to necessarily focus on. It's the what we call the pain teacher. It's what comes along to give us our consciousness, the awareness that something's not quite in balance, like you experience and like we all experience in certain ways if we're listening. But because of the mother archetype being so giving, you give energy from day one to that growing embryo, fetus, and infant, and then child. That's part of the mother archetype. Well, that's very purposeful, very important. Without that, human species wouldn't live. Mammals wouldn't live, wouldn't exist. But when that becomes out of balance due to some societal, religious, parental, or any other influential belief, that can lead to dysfunction for the individual. And I've worked with a lot of women in that state. Their mothers, they're doing a million different things, giving energy here, there, the business, the family, all of the things that go along with our busy lives in this paradigm. And it eventually manifests in physical dysfunction of some sort on the body. And I've seen it many, many times. So it's really, really important for mothers to understand that by giving excess energy, they actually have less energy to give as love to their child. We cannot give love that we don't have for ourselves. So if we just give and give and give, again, that causes a burnout. It's just the same as whether an athlete's overtraining or whether a business person is overworking. It creates the same kind of imbalance, just a different manifestation or a different symptom. But we all know it. We've all been in that scenario where we've overworked or we're overtired or we're overstressed. We don't have the patience and basically love to give to the people that we value. And that's just a symptom that's telling us of imbalance. So we don't need to judge ourselves for it. We just go, there, yeah, I had it today. Just a little bit too much focus, disconnecting me from my center. And then I start acting out in a suboptimal way that doesn't let me move towards my goal. So I don't need to sit here blaming and shaming and guilting myself. I can just go, okay, well, that's what that was. So it's a very useful thing for mothers especially to know, because there is huge responsibility and pressure on mothers.
Yeah.
I believe. As I say, as a man sitting here a man with no children talking to a mother.
I can tell you all about it.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. You'd be a far better coaching.
My child in action.
I have. He's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
A lot of energy.
A lot of energy. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting as well is that you're working with high performance athletes. Mm-hmm. And you often see this in your clients as well. So it's not only in your everyday life people that are sitting in front of the computer working every day. You see it in athletes.
So whether it's an elite athlete, whether it's a CEO, whether it's a mother, whether it's any person, it's the same excess yang energy. For an athlete, it's overtraining. Overtraining, not enough resting, poor quality food, excess respiration rate or too high a respiration rate, not allowing the person to digest, recover, and assimilate the information and knowledge of the training. That's how that manifests for an athlete. For a CEO, it might be adrenal burnout or digestive dysfunction or sleep pattern disorder, or you go further down the line, then you've got diseases. So that excess yang energy can manifest in a mother, a CEO, an athlete, whatever gender. The symptoms it comes up with can obviously vary, or it could be similar. But this is what I see with athletes, especially young athletes who are still at school. So they've got exams, they've got club training, they've got school training, they've got expectations, children, huge expectations these days. I have so much empathy and respect for teenage athletes at the moment in this day and age. I never experienced that. I didn't have a phone until I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Certainly didn't have a smartphone that could take a video until I was probably 30. I'm a bit slow on that stuff, but
I was like, what?
Yeah, exactly. I'm quite old, though, you have to remember. Yeah, I am quite old, you have to remember this.
You're not.
I'm 42 nearly.
It's okay.
No, it's okay. I've made my peace with it.
Yeah.
But this is what you see over and over again, and a lot of my athletes, especially the really motivated ones, you have to be very conscious about what you're giving them. My physiotherapist client, he sees a huge number of young women. When you saw me the other day, 2 severe knee injuries, teenage women,
being like 15 years old or
something like that. It's those years, and that's not an isolated random occurrence. That's what I see all the time, not just with girls, with boys as well. But I think this is the thing that's very relevant, is it tends to manifest more strongly and more severely on females. When you create that dysfunction, I believe that's why women are more intuitive, because they need to be more careful. They need to be more nurturing. A woman is a more finely tuned instrument than a male. One of my favorite sayings is, women are like Ferraris, men are like trucks. You can beat your truck up and it'll probably keep going, but you can't do that to your Ferrari.
Yeah.
So women, look after yourselves. Nourish the Ferrari, and then it will function and be that beautiful thing that we see. Other car brands are available, of course.
Sponsoring.
Exactly. Yes, I wish I was sponsored by Ferrari.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. But that's really, really important. But the great thing is, our bodies are always sending us signals, always sending us messages. Pain, sleep issues, digestive issues. I know it in my own body, and this is not some I am holier than everyone else and I'm perfect and everybody must listen to every word. I get it wrong as well. At the moment, I'm quite yang in my energy because I'm trying to create something that's really meaningful to me. But my body's sending me signals that are saying, yeah, Mark, do you know what? That's your goal, and that's fine. Happy to go with you on that, but this is what's happening in the body. Here's a bit of pain. Here's a little bit of fatigue. Here's a little bit of awareness from the body to tell me, okay, just maybe do something a little bit more yin, just to balance it out so I can still do what I need to do. Worst thing, I go excess yang, get ill, can't go and do what I want to do to help me achieve what I want.
Right.
It's a purposeful Control-Alt-Delete or trip switch that so many people are tripping over and over and over again. Repetitive illness. So many people, it's like every second week they're ill. And that's not a random virus turning up. That's not a random bacteria. That's just our body not being able to deal with the stressor of a new virus or a different strain of bacteria or whatever it is. And we see this all the time. The highest level of illness in kids is around exam time. Their stress load goes through the roof. The body says, Control-Alt-Delete, have a week in bed. Okay. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. If we're aware of the symptoms of stress in the body, we can go, yeah, there it is. Okay, I'm not sleeping so well, or I feel my pulse is high. I can take my pulse in the morning. It's a very great bit of biofeedback. Is my pulse higher than normal? Okay, there's stress. There's stress in my body. You know, these are the things we have, and especially for women, women have the intuition with them, as you talked about. It's there. It's you feel it. Just giving a voice to it, a language to it, and an acceptance of it, and to go. This again is that excess masculine energy where we ignore that and we literally stifle it. We stifle it with stimulant. We stifle it with medication. We stifle it with sugar and instant gratification foods and behaviors, so we don't have to listen to it. There's only one outcome. It will be dysfunction, dis-ease, or pain. And that's, I see it walking through the door day after day after day in different manifestations. This symptom, this dis-ease, that pain, that issue. And it's creating a bit of simplicity from all that complexity, because all of those individual symptoms have a specialization. But specializing in the symptom, it has possibly some relevance. But what happens if we understood that symptom is just there as a message, a purposeful message from the body to say, hello, something's not quite right, please manage how you're dealing with this.
The awareness of it.
The awareness of how empowering is that?
Yeah.
How much energy does that save us? How much pain and dysfunction and unhappiness does that save? When you work with somebody who's had severe sleep issues, that's not a happy person. That creates all kinds of issues. But if you understand that can be changed by dealing with the underlying causes rather than medicating or palliatively treating the symptom, it's huge. It's so powerful, and it's so often it's very cost effective. It's very cheap. Sleep is free. Breathing is free.
Right.
Water is not very expensive. Especially in Sweden, good quality water. You don't have to be going to buy Evian. You've got good quality water coming through the tap. But you can't really market that so easily. You know, I can't sell water. Well, I can, but you know, I can't sell air.
You could put it in a nice bottle.
Absolutely, I could do. But is that what the world needs? Probably not.
Yeah.
So these are the things that are so relevant. You've experienced it. We've been, we've broached these subjects on numerous occasions on our journey together.
Yeah.
And I do it for myself. As I say, I feel when my body is fatigued. I don't judge myself on that. I don't blame myself. Oh, I'm not strong enough. That's excess yang energy.
Yeah.
I'm making choices that are having an impact upon my body.
And accepting it.
Accepting it, being okay with that. Not judging, not blaming, not being, oh, I'm too weak. Well, maybe if I'd nourished my feminine, I'd be stronger. I would be stronger if I'd nourished that's a sign that I've gone too masculine, not enough feminine. So if I nourish my feminine, I actually become stronger. That's beautiful. It's so simple, really.
It is.
It's so simple.
And something I preach in my coaching and with everything I talk about is tuning in with yourself daily.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I often see it that people just wake up, take the phone, start scrolling,
Precisely.
don't tune in, and feel like, how am I feeling today?
Tune out.
Or tune out, yeah.
that's what that's tuning out.
Yeah, and I used to do that daily as well.
Yeah.
But for the last couple of years, I'm waking up, tuning in with myself, doing my morning business, feeling in the body, like asking myself, how am I feeling today? If it's something that doesn't feel right, how have I slept?
Yeah. Exactly.
Your body will tell you what period in my cycle am I experiencing right now. Could this cause the pain or the feelings or whatever that comes up?
Or the emotions.
Yeah.
All of these things, they're impinging upon our emotions as well as our hormonal system, as our blood sugar balancing. The blood that's sent to our gut, the blood that's sent to our brain, all of these things. It's such a beautiful symphony. But when you're silent and you're tuning into yourself, that's when you can hear the individual notes. I think that's a really good thing to broach, because otherwise every symptom or the standard symptoms that turn up, it's just an excuse to take a pill. And if you understand that, okay, this might be my body saying to me, more feminine, less masculine, then that gives the power back to the woman. And I think I love that about my job. I love empowering women. I'm not sure why. I grew up in a very patriarchal family.
Me too.
Yeah. And maybe that's part of it. Maybe because part of my upbringing was so patriarchal, it was so masculine dominated. Maybe that creates an intrinsic desire to balance. And I feel and have felt and understand that the limitations of that wounded masculine, that toxic masculine, of that unmet masculine. That's what gives me that desire. That taught me the lesson. It's a wonderful lesson to have. That makes you weaker, not stronger. Being unintuitive, being unconnected, being unfeeling stops you from connecting with your body. If you're not feeling, some of my male clients haven't felt anything for years, and those are the most challenged clients.
Yeah.
The males who have literally disconnected from everything. Those tend to be your business CEOs. Your male CEOs are the classic CEO characteristics. Complete disconnection from everything. It's just about the bottom line. It's just about the
results,
the share price, the results, the number of sales of whatever it is. And that is when you talked the other day about helping to empower women to get into business, and how it wasn't those old paradigms of success that was speaking to women. I felt so happy, because I was concerned that was still the measure of success. The old-fashioned, unfeeling, unconnected, disconnected, masculine paradigm was still the driving force. Well, when you say that women are wanting to get into business for something different, that was like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, we do.
That's wonderful. That's so wonderful to hear, because the other way is how you destroy the planet, is how you use all the resources, is how you will literally sacrifice anything as long as it improves your bottom line.
And that's what we see right now with all the wars and all the crisis and everything, and we need to live in balance with each other. I mean, the women are not supposed to live without the men, and the men are not supposed to live without the women. It's not about that.
No.
It's about living in balance, living equally, but also letting and bringing more women to leadership positions that can lead with more by heart and not only by result.
Yes.
Such as money, power, and so on. And you see it all over the world, and all these horrible decisions are all about power and making money. And we're destroying the planet. We're destroying ourselves.
Yeah.
We're supposed to live in community, everyone. By love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing else. But it's destroyed by all its power and making money and owning shares and
Precisely.
Dominating the different parts of the world and so on.
Exactly, and dominating the market. These are all things which I think it's fairly obvious that some of the I find it very I look a lot at the sort of origins of our belief systems, whether it be evolution or health or diet. I love going back to almost like the birth of that paradigm. And when you see some of the paradigms regarding things like evolution and our understanding of that, and who wrote Darwin's theory on evolution. It wasn't even Darwin, it was somebody else. He just interpreted it in his own way, which matched his belief system on society. And that's our basis for our understanding of evolution. It's not even that accurate. And that if we were accurate on all these things, I believe humanity would function a lot more smoothly. I think when you're seeing all this dysfunction and warring and ill health, I mean, the numbers on ill health in America and even countries like Germany are staggering, absolutely staggering. You can be sure you're getting it wrong. That's not, you don't have huge spikes and changes in disease pattern in one generation and it'd be a genetic issue. It has to be an environmental issue. When you see these things happening, you know somewhere down the line, somewhere at the bottom of this, there is a belief system and a habitual system which is creating this, which is meaning that this is why we do it. And if you go into that classic old male CEO type, and I've met many of them through my father's business when I was just a little boy. You know, they used to come up to Scotland on holiday. My family ran a tourist business. And I would meet these guys and they were just pure competitors. And compete over everything. Because if you look at Darwin's theory, life is competition. I can't win unless I dominate you. I have to beat you to succeed. I can't collaborate with you because that's not how evolution works. That's not how life works. It's human against bacteria, human against virus. Well, it's just completely irrelevant now. It's not irrelevant. It's completely inaccurate. The numbers that you see now, the studies that are going into things like epigenetics, the understanding of what's going on in the body. I think one of my favorites is the understanding that the mitochondria, which are the energy powerhouses of the cell, every one of our cells, up to 2,000 of them per cell, in some cells, nerve cells, they're non-human genetically.
Yeah, it's so cool.
in our old biology textbooks, you'd have a human cell, and one part of it, one organelle would be the mitochondria. Well, there's not one of them, there's hundreds of them, and they're non-human. And they are the things that create energy for us. I always thank Zach Bush for that kind of stuff, because he is just such a light, shining truth on the very origins of life. And I think when you change that paradigm, you realize, it's not about competition. It's literally the human body is a community of interdependent species, all working together for health. You can't then gaslight yourself into thinking life is competition. When you understand the very origins of life our collaboration, different species coming together
Yes.
to create more life, more intelligence, more awareness, more consciousness. Competition cannot be the bottom line. It has to be collaboration because everything is fractal. A cell to a human is a fractal scale. A human to a society is just like a grander scale. And it's these things which are so fundamental to our, I believe, flawed and damaged belief systems that cause us to keep making those kinds of decisions. And that's for an individual burning themselves out, or that's for a huge corporation making choices that is extractive on the planet. It's the same thing, just again, it's a different fractal scale. One person can do it to themselves or on a very small scale. A corporation, which is just a grander scale, can do it more globally, more powerfully. And that I think is so important. It's those underlying reasons why we do those things. We've both talked about the patriarchal upbringings we lived in and what that created in terms of a belief and a value system, and how when balancing that or changing that, how it allows us to be more nurturing and more powerful. We can actually harness more power when we go away from that. That if I have more power, then I can do more good.
Right.
I want that. That's part of my goal. I can help more people if I have more energy. If I'm so exhausted by doing too much masculine energy or too many masculine things, I can't help people. Can't help myself for a start, can't help other people. And that I think is so relevant, so important.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's also important to know what you're contributing to the world and with your energy, living in this community, creating things together. As I told you yesterday, I stopped charging by hour and started to charge by energy. And just working with people that makes me feel a certain energy in my body. I can feel the connection. Because I dare to look in and feel. And how does it feel when I'm sitting here talking to you, or when we're working out, or when I'm collaborating with another person? What does it give me? What does it give that person as well?
Yeah.
And it was a game changer when you told me, it was somewhere in the beginning when we started to work out, and you said, it's beautiful to work with you because I know when I'm working with you, you keep on continuing helping other women. So it was like a cycle.
Yeah.
And then I felt like, hey, yeah, this is the right person because he has the same values and the belief system as me. And that is so cool. And when you realize that you have the power to change your energy, and you are the one choosing what do you want to do with your life, what kind of energy you want to give and receive. And as you say, if I take care of myself, if I make all the money in the world, it's nothing wrong about that.
No.
But it's
Got great potential.
Yeah. But what do you want to do with the money?
Precisely. Because it's just another form of energy.
Or the power.
It's just another form of energy. I can either turn that £100 note into gasoline or food or weapons or what. It's just energy that hasn't been finalized into its full material expression.
Right.
So the money is fantastic.
Yeah.
What do you want to use it for? That's because it's just energy. What do you want to use your energy for? We have a great opportunity to choose in our day and age. We've got so much potential, so much reach. This podcast could reach people other side of the globe.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That's the power of the internet.
That's the power of it. And it can be used. It's used so much potentially detrimentally, but it's got so much potential for good as well.
It does.
And that's wonderful.
Nice. Thank you so much for
Pleasure.
wanting to join this podcast, talking about these beautiful things in life and the importance of finding the balance between the masculine and the energy and leading yourself by it.
Absolute pleasure to be here. I think it's such an important message for all of us. I think when you're leading women back to understanding themselves, that's an empowered being. You can't lie to somebody who's tapped into themselves. You can't sell them a paradigm or a product that's detrimental to them when they're connected. they will buy things that are good for them. They will invest their energy in things that are good for them and good for the planet. And that's a paradigm that I want to be part of.
Tack så hemskt mycket för att du lyssnade på dagens poddavsnitt. Jag hoppas verkligen att det här avsnittet kunde inspirera dig att ta med dig någonting speciellt i ditt vardagliga liv. Att kunna inspireras att leda dig själv utifrån att skapa balans i ditt kropp och sinne. Om det är så att du blev inspirerad så blir vi jätteglada ifall du vill dela den här podcastavsnittet med världen, med dina vänner och alla runt omkring dig. Vi är extremt tacksamma för våra samarbetspartners, Deduxiana, här i Malmö. I hjärtat av Malmö kan du njuta av en fantastiskt härlig miljö från morgon till kväll, där du kan njuta av frukost, lunch, kvällsmiddag, härliga drinkar och också sova över här i en väldigt inspirerande miljö. Jag ser fram emot att få leverera och bjuda er på fler djupa, meningsfulla diskussioner. Så ses och hörs vi snart igen.